Welcome, everyone, to our brand new podcast called Getting Deep with a PhD and a JD.
I'm Nicki. I am a PhD. I am a professor at an urban university, and I teach research and human behavior.
And I am Kimmie, the JD of this duo. I currently work with a continuing education provider for attorneys, and I also have my own estate planning practice.
So you must be wondering, what is this podcast all about? Well, this podcast is a spirited and analytical discussion about relevant news topics that are not a part of your daily timeline. Not only will you learn something new, you will be inspired to action. Hi, Kimmie. Guess what?
Hey, Nicki. What's going on?
Well, I have some very important news, and it has to do with language.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, so I have a quick question for you. So what do the words cakewalk, bussin', grill, promised land, and kitchen have in common?
They are all sort of African American slang, colloquialism, whatever word you want to use.
Absolutely. So today we are going to be talking about language, but a huge thing that just happened is that the Oxford Dictionary of African American English is now being constructed. And so all of those words that I mentioned, those are some of the words that are going to be a part of this African American dictionary. And I think it's important to mention that Dr. Henry Louis Gates is going to be the editor of this new dictionary. Mm-hmm. And they are actually in the process of collecting words right now to be part of this dictionary. And so they've released the first 10 words. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I'm going to go through and see if we know what these are. Bussin'.
Now, see, bussin', to me, bussin' means it's really good, like really good.
Yeah, that's what, like, it's an adjective. Something really good, something tasty, something delicious, describing a party, an event. Mm-hmm. Grill.
Yeah, I know grill.
Grill, yeah, those teeth. Teeth
the
that
gold grills.
Yeah, the gold grills. Yeah, you know, a lot of rappers use those too. They make their own grills. In fact, I was watching what was I watching? I was watching this tattoo show, and one of the challenges they had was somebody had to make a grill. Like they had to actually come up with a grill, like using I guess a mold. They had to be creative because they do a lot of creative
on a tattoo
flash show? Yeah, they do a lot of flash challenges to get get things. And I thought, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, grills
so
very common.
A couple of other words: promised land, and this is another one. This is another one that is just really funny to me. Chitlins. Now it's spelled like chitterlings, but really when it's pronounced, it's chitlins.
It's chitlins, yeah.
Chitlins, yeah. And I remember my mom and
my mom too.
Yep, talking about making them, and
I never ate them.
Well, I always had an out because I'm vegetarian and I prefer to eat vegan. So I was always, no one ever, I had an out for that. So.
And my mom, interestingly enough, my mom never made me eat anything I didn't want to eat.
So that's good. That's good. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because she was strict in so many ways, but then in other ways, she was very lenient, and it was often kind of surprising or shocking at how lenient she was in some ways. And that was one of them.
Yeah, yeah. My mom never made me eat anything that I didn't want to eat either. But it's also interesting that she allowed me to kind of make my own decisions about like being vegetarian. And so that
Hmm.
was
I
an interesting
remember
thing.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, from very early memories, you've been a vegetarian like all my life, and
Hmm.
and we met when we were what, like
I think we were,
I was in I was in no, I was in first
you
or
were like
second
first
grade.
or second grade, and
Hmm.
I was in probably fourth or fifth grade or something
Hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's so
Yep.
funny. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So.
All right.
Mhm.
So kitchen. And we talked about this last a little bit last
Okay.
week. The
Yeah.
kitchen, the back of your head, the
Yep.
kitchen.
Has a
And
very
then
specific meaning.
yep.
Hmm.
And then the cakewalk.
Now that
Um,
one I hadn't heard of before. Like I hadn't heard of cakewalk.
I think this is a really interesting one because it was, I'm going to read the definition that's going to be in the dictionary. A
Hmm.
contest in which Black people would perform a stylized walk in pairs, typically judged by a plantation owner. The winner would receive some kind of cake, something that is
Mm.
considered easily done, as in this job is a cakewalk. Like, oh, this could be a cakewalk.
Oh yeah, I've heard cakewalk. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not. But that's not similar to the actual definition, though.
No, but here's the thing that I think is important is that these words have evolved.
Hmm.
Like, you hear, oh,
Especially
yeah,
from
that's a
the slavery
cakewalk.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
what's interesting to me is I think it's interesting because like there's some other phrases about cake, like let them eat cake.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's evolved like French, and it's interesting to me that like Black folks in slavery would get together and they do this walk, and it would be judged by the plantation owners. And what would they get? They wouldn't get like a day to do nothing. They would get a
Hmm.
type of cake. And
Hmm.
that's interesting to me,
Yeah, that is
especially when
very
you think
interesting.
about let them eat cake, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
Hmm. Right.
yeah, I think that's
Exactly.
interesting. So, old school. This is something that
Oh.
I say in my Zumba class whenever we have a song that
Hmm.
that has a move that's really that's kind
Oh.
of from like the 80s or 90s. Like, do you remember that dance? It was like this, like you.
The WAP. Yeah.
Yeah, the WAP. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it, but in my class I'm like, let's take it back old school, and then we do
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. So a lot of terminology comes from African American lexicon, and I think, and when you and I were discussing this topic ahead of time, it was very important for you to distinguish between the fact that this is an African American dictionary and not a Black.
Right. Absolutely.
So kind of
Absolutely.
explain to the people why that distinction, that nuance is important.
So this is very important because when you think about the term Black and you think about the term African American, the term African American is definitely about ethnicity because it implies about people who are African who are in America, which is
or African descent.
African descent. African descent. Oh, sorry. Thank you for clarifying. African descent who are in America. So African American versus Black, which could be any person of, and races. I've put race in quotes.
Yeah.
Any person of the Black race. So it could be people who are Black living in Canada, living in Japan, living in Haiti, living in the Philippines, living, anywhere. So this is specific to African American, people of African descent in America, because we have our own unique culture that is really rooted a lot of times within the slavery piece.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and not all Black folks were slaves. Not all African Americans were slaves. I think that's really important to point out.
Yeah.
There were some people who were free.
Yeah.
And, so that's important to point out. But yes, this language is about African Americans, and that's why many of the things you'll see will have the roots within slavery.
Yeah, so some of the sources of the words that are going to be a part of this dictionary include, not, in addition to the slave narratives, but also music lyrics, letters, diary entries, magazines, social media, and Black women. Like one of the articles that I read spoke about how influential Black women are or will be to this dictionary.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and, you know, and I think that, you know, when you introduced the topic, you said that this is from, you know, the Hutchins Center, right? Oxford Dictionary. And so this in a way is going to legitimize African American English, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think there's this idea, right? You know, that some people feel that African Americans, you know, we do not have our own language, right? Because you look at other minority groups and they have their own language with which they can communicate with each other, right? To the exclusion of others. So, I mean, this isn't what this is, but, you know, I think that as African Americans, we actually do have our own language, which is what this is,
Mm-hmm.
but it was always viewed in a negative way and not even as a language. It was
Right,
called
right.
slang. It was called, you know, whatever else, whatever other, you know,
Ebonics. Remember
Ebonics.
Ebonics?
And so it wasn't even considered a language like other minority groups, right? You know, so if
Mm-hmm.
you have a minority group that speaks, you know, Mandarin, that's a actual
It's
language
language, yes.
that's
Yes.
recognized. But our language that we speak with each other here, which in history was for purposes of protecting ourselves, everything
Yeah.
goes back to slavery, right?
Right,
So,
right.
you know, our codes and languages, because we weren't allowed to read and write the King's English, you know, we did develop our own way of communicating.
Right.
But up until now, it's always been devalued. And so I think that
Exactly.
this
Well,
validates it.
and I think the other part that's really important is that these terms are in popular culture. And that's why they're really, the methodology for actually finding all of these words,
Mm-hmm.
they're using, like you mentioned, you know, social media, they're using books, they're using music. And so this is really to show the impact that African American language has had on, and I'm going to use the term, the King's English. So folks weren't allowed to read the King's English. However, now folks they're showing how people who weren't allowed to read it are now have contributed to it.
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of that full circle coming back around.
And everything cool, right? That's the
Yeah,
other thing.
yeah.
And so I was reading an article, and it said that, you know, African Americans, we are the linguistic drip, right? So we provide the cool, right? And in this way, I think this dictionary would also probably prevent language appropriation, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, they devalue the language as we speak it, but then when others speak it, they do so kind of in a way to sort of validate themselves as being a person who is cool, or now the
Hip,
term is
a
a person
person
who is woke,
woke.
or
Yes, yes. And
yeah,
I wonder. So the interesting thing to me is that of the first 10 words that they've come up with, and I just want to run through a couple of the other ones. Aunt Hagar's children, which is a term I've never heard of before.
Yeah, me either. I haven't heard of that.
And that's in reference to Black people collectively. And it's a biblical reference.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Okay.
And then the last one I want to mention is called Ring Shout, and it's a spiritual ritual involving a dance where participants follow one another in a ring shape. And, you know, honestly, I thought this was going to be more about like the call and response part of, like, for example, within churches and also within like lyrical music where someone will say something and then the audience responds, like the call and response. I thought Ring Shout was going to be tied into that. And maybe it is, because it does talk about participants following one another in a ring shape. So I'm just wondering, the dance, and it says the dancing and chanting. And so I don't know, but I guess we will have to see once it finally comes out in the next few years. Also, in thinking about language, I was thinking about how many times language has been used to oppress, and how a lot of times folks who use these terms were seen as not being educated. And also in terms of schools, they were seen as not being just not being educated and not understanding.
Absolutely.
And so now
hence the
these
term
words,
Ebonics.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I also think that this dictionary would lend itself to helping, Black workers feel more valued in predominantly white spaces, and the acceptability of the language that they use without degradation, and
Right.
and without the the idea that if I say, oh yeah, my kitchen, it's not looked at as unprofessional.
Right.
Because
And
it is a word.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, people have used these words for a long time. Like if we go
Mm-hmm.
out into the popular culture and we start using some of these words, people will
Mm-hmm.
know. I mean, and not just Black people,
Mm-hmm.
but other people know. And so they know, but before now, we didn't have a canon or a place where all of these places
Right.
were put. So I think this is really important. And the way that they are getting all of these words, they actually have a methodology. They actually have documented it. They are going through and cataloging words. And so this isn't just let me see which words seem cool. It's really about, let's go through this process for identifying these words and then seeing if they're legitimate and then putting them in this book. So there's a lot of research going on.
Because we hear a lot of people talk about the Urban Dictionary and how these are made up words, these aren't real words. And I mean, and isn't I didn't do this research ahead of time in determining how the languages that we do have now, like English, like Spanish, like how those languages were developed. Like, what was the process? I would imagine it's similar to what is happening with the African American dictionary, right? I mean, you may know a little bit more about that. I don't know about how.
Well, language is fluid. Language is fluid. I mean, when we think, we could go way, way back and think of the language tree and how many branches there are off of the language tree, and how and how the Romance languages evened out, and then these languages that are different. We could go way back then. But I also think that when we think about how folks came over to America, settlers and then slaves, and then there were indigenous folks, because there were indigenous folks that we borrowed from, right? Or should I say, we stole from. Yeah. But there were indigenous folks that were here. And so language is fluid. So anytime folks communicate and start connecting with people, language becomes fluid. I mean, you even think about, we were joking around talking about the King's English, right?
Yeah.
Think about how we'll just say in Britain, okay? We'll say, or in England, we'll say, okay, how is English different from the English that's spoken in America? It's very different.
Right, it is.
And it's because they developed differently because of what folks were exposed to. In America, it was very different. We had indigenous folks here. We also had people coming from different places that spoke differently. And so
and so that added to what we consider English.
Right.
Correct English, or whatever term you want to use. So I definitely think it's a good thing. And I think that what we can kind of segue into now is our call to action for this topic. And one of the things that I discovered is that you can actually make suggestions.
Yes. Isn't that great? And this is what I was talking about when I said about the methodology. So really opening this up. There's a crowdsourcing piece, but there's also but there's also after they get these things, they're going to really look at all of these word choices and then use some research techniques to actually come up with the dictionary. So I love it. So
the definition. Yeah. And so that so there's a website, and we'll include a link to it, in the comments section here. But there, you can go to this website and you can actually input a word, and you can put in your definition. And it also gives you an opportunity to upload an audio file where I imagine you can then use it in a sentence, demonstrate the accurate pronunciation and all of that. And, and one of the things though that I find interesting is, even within the United States, there are different, dialects,
Right.
depending upon the region that you're in. You and I, our families are from Louisiana, so we had that influence in the way that we talk, the way that we pronounce certain words, and some of the slang that come from our mother's culture, right? Our mother's Creole culture, and then of course just in Louisiana in general.
Right.
So I'd be interested to see how that plays out, because there could be one word that's pronounced one way in this region of the U.S., but
not in
another way.
Yeah. You know what I want to do? I would love to get my mom to enter in the word googobs. Because that word is so funny to me. It's so funny to me because I don't think, have you ever heard anybody else other than our family use that term?
Googobs? No.
I haven't either. And I'm wondering, if how did they, and I need to ask my mom where that word came from.
Now, have you ever heard her say lacrosse?
Lacrosse.
Like my mom would say that a lot.
No,
and that would mean take a nap. So it's like you're laying across like you don't get in the bed under the sheets and covers. You would just sort of lay across the bed.
No, I've never heard that before.
She said it all the time, and she would be like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go lay across," and so I knew that meant she was going to take a nap.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. Huh. So there's lots of words, and I think and I feel like one of my sorority sisters here, she doesn't live here anymore, but she did before. And when we started, conversing, we discovered, she was from New Orleans, and I told her that my family was from Louisiana, or whatever. And I feel like I mentioned that to her, and she knew exactly what I was talking about when I said it. So I don't know if it's a Louisiana thing or what.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask my mom about that.
The lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
Yeah. And googobs.
And googobs. And I do know, instead of saying sink, I do know my mom would say zinc.
My mom
because
did too.
For the longest time, I thought that
was the word.
That was the word. Zinc. Like, oh yeah, that's not a mineral. That's a thing you wash things in,
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I literally thought sink was spelled Z-I-N-K.
Zinc. Yeah.
Yeah. So and so there's that word, and there was another word that was coming to my mind. Oh God, I hate that. Okay, maybe it'll come back to me. But it was another word that I heard my mom say a lot, and I know that was probably some sort of Louisiana thing.
Yeah.
I know what it was. It make groceries.
Yes, make groceries. Yeah. Yeah, my mom would always say that. Yeah, I'm going to go make groceries. And you knew make groceries was completely different from what people might say with like going shopping. Because make groceries, you knew they were going to go make a lot of they were going to go get a lot of things.
A lot of food.
Yes, and that was the time when my brother and I were really excited because we knew we needed Pop-Tarts. We needed like all our candy kinds of things. We knew that was the time we could get them. And because my mom would make groceries once a month. She'd make this huge grocery run. And you come back and there'd be all of these bags. And then the thing that we didn't like is she'd get us to help her put them up.
Oh yeah.
Because we just wanted to grab our Pop-Tarts and grab our sweets and just go and take them. Yeah. But we always had to help put things away. And so we were like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember being in law. I didn't realize that people didn't say make groceries until I actually went to law school.
Yeah.
And I remember I was saying it and somebody was like, and somebody looked at me and was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? You know, making groceries, like going to the grocery. You mean grocery shopping?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Mom would even say sometimes make a grocery. Like she'd be like, oh yeah, I need to go make a grocery. Like it wouldn't even be pluralized at the
See,
end.
I don't even, well, maybe that was, see, I don't remember my mom saying that. I remember
Make
her
a
saying
grocery.
making groceries, always,
Yeah, my
always
mom
making
said that too.
groceries. Yeah,
Hmm.
but I've never heard the term make a grocery. I never heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my mom said that a couple sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting.
Uh-huh. It
Hmm.
is very interesting. And so it's not just specific words, but it's the way that they're used,
Hmm.
like making groceries,
Hmm.
you know, the way you're using the terms. So,
It has
so
a
really,
specific definition.
yeah. So I wonder
Yeah,
how they're going to do that with the dictionary, like not
yeah.
just with specific words, but like phrases and
That's because that's
terms,
a phrase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of feel like we're maybe getting a little bit beyond what they're doing, because that list of words that you told me, were any of them phrases or were they all singular
They
words?
were all words.
Yeah,
They
so
were
I
all words.
think this.
Oh, except wait, no, there was one. Hagar's children.
Oh yeah, that's a
Okay,
phrase.
that's a phrase. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So
that's a
maybe they
phrase.
will include
And
phrases.
ring shout was also
Hmm.
on there. So maybe they will
Hmm.
include phrases. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's supposed to be released in 2025 is what I saw.
Yes, I saw that as
So that would
well.
be so that would be my only call to action. Do you have any other calls to action for something like this?
No, I think the other call to action would be just to be on the lookout, like
Yeah.
for people to be aware of the language that they use and really start to ask yourself, you know, do you have words that you use that you don't hear in everyday speech, like when you're speaking with other folks, and start to really
Hmm.
think about, well, where did I get that word from, and where did that meaning come from, you know?
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think because I think that helps us understand ourselves, and
Hmm.
it helps us understand, just how we developed and how, different
Hmm.
things about our upbringing. So
And I think it
definitely.
will. And I think as time, as it's released, it'll help people feel less self-conscious about using the terms that, back in the 90s people would call ebonics, which
Right.
is kind of has a negative
Oh,
connotation.
very negative connotation. Very negative
So
connotation.
so we're getting away from that,
Yeah.
and and we can use those words in business meetings, and not feel like, oh, that's just a black word. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just a black word
Right.
that we made up.
It's funny because when you said that, I saw in my head, I was thinking, it's not just a word. These aren't words that people make up. They're words that evolve out of situations,
Yeah.
Um,
Where there was no other word to describe what was happening, what was going on,
right.
and what it meant.
Yeah. And so people
Yeah.
had to come up with, and if you think about it, the fact that we're involved in making refinements to a dictionary and creating an actual dictionary is just amazing, considering our ancestors were not allowed to read or
To read
write.
or write.
Our grandfather did not
Hmm.
go to school a day in his life. He never learned to read or write. And
Oh, Daddy George.
yes, and in doing genealogy, I found this out, and I was
I didn't know he didn't go to
surprised.
school at
He
all.
didn't go to school. He didn't go to school. He
Wow.
didn't learn how to read or write, and that
Hmm.
wasn't unusual.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah, I know that.
and so even and people who were considered educated may only have had a fourth or fifth grade education. And so when we think about the fact that we're doing this podcast with a PhD and a JD,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
that really, it just really comes full circle, and it just,
It resonates.
it does. It does. I mean,
Yeah, that's fabulous. And and we've come such a long way, and we always are able to shine and elevate in the face of such extreme adversity, right? So, not being able to read or write, and in these ways we have created our own language in our way of communicating, and it's more than just Ebonics.
Absolutely. And not being able to read and write and to be able to translate history down, and to be able to translate stories and information is really quite amazing if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole topic is really our tell me something good, right?
Yeah.
Because what else good can come from this other than this?
And it's also it's a legitimizing factor as well. It's making folks who have been on the margins for so long, it's bringing them into the center of the discussion about language. And it's helping other people understand that folks who may have come from people who didn't read or write really can contribute a lot to language. And we really have contributed a lot. And like you started at the beginning saying, the cool focus, the bad, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good, right?
And I think on that note, we can end this episode. I think it was a really great topic. I'm really excited to see how far this goes. Hopefully the release date remains the same, and good things come from it.
Absolutely. And just want to remind our viewers to please subscribe and to like our podcasts. And if there are topics that you would like to discuss, please let us know. We want to see your comments. We love hearing from viewers.
And we also want to hear, is this something new to you? Did you learn something today from us by viewing this episode? We would like to hear that as well.
I know I learned something. I learned I'm gonna have to kick up my fashion game with Kimmie with her matching headphones, top, and the nails.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Give us the nails. Give us the nails.
I don't want you to see my chipped one.
Well, till next time, everybody.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye.